We value a light heart and a heart that balances and a heart that provides for others. Hello, and welcome to the seventh zodiac sign, Libra. Libra starts the social signs of the zodiac. So the first six signs, starting with Aries through Virgo, are about you personally, who you are, and different aspects of what your life is. So Aries is you specifically, Taurus is your stuff, Gemini is your education, of Cancer is your feelings, Leo is your place in the world, Virgo is your thinking process, your analysis. Libra is the start of other people, the start of relationships. The seventh house, which represents Libra in the house system, is often referred to as descendant, and that often is auspicious of the person you're going to marry. So Libra represents marriage. It represents Venus, Aphrodite, Lucifer. Very, very energetic. It's a masculine sign, but it has very feminine qualities. So, like Virgo, it's very androgynous. So as we kind of start to move out of like that power structure of who we are as people and start to mix with others, and we start to balance ourselves and others through Libra. Libra itself is the scales, which is super important. The scales are, of course, go back to the Egyptian times where when you were entering into the realm of the dead, Anubis would weigh your heart on the scales of Libra, or what we now know as the scales of Libra, against a feather of Mat, who is lightheartedness and feeling. She was an Egyptian goddess. We value a light heart and a heart that balances and a heart that provides for others. And that is what Libra is, right? It's, you get married, you give your heart to someone, you accept all their flaws, and hopefully they do the same for you. But if they don't, you know that you're strong enough to work kind of to get through it on your own. Get the power of what it means to be self-sacrificing, to really care for others, to love for others. Libra is really strong on contracts, especially the marriage contract. And so we start to kind of build this ecosystem that we live in when we start to think about Libra. What does the part of our home life look like that we don't control, right? What does it look like when we love? What does it look like when we connect with things? And going back to this notion of the scales and weighing your heart, if your heart was heavier than the feather, it would just get eaten by basically a demon. The Egyptians had like a little, like, it was almost like a dog demon, and it would just like munch up your heart, and that would be it for you. You would cease to exist. And so the Egyptians knew from a very early time for us, for when we think of world history and the knowledge of this sort of like giving and being self-sacrificing, they knew from a long time ago that being able to accept others for who they were, work with others, support others, give to others, even if they were not being as giving to you. It was something important to go through, it was part of being human. And as you grow up and as you learn to work with others and as you go into the workforce, you learn that giving people the benefit of the doubt is always 100% worth it. Like, you always want to be able to help other people do the thing that they are going to do, and you want to give them grace. I just got a message from an old colleague, and she was like, I hope the new job is going well. I was like, well, I'm not really in a new job. And I think that was a wrong answer. I mean, it's technically correct, but it's important to give people peace and allow them to believe what they choose to believe and kind of go through that process, right? So if somebody's at work and they're enjoying their job and things are going well, and you were at the same place and you left and maybe you weren't enjoying it so much, do your best to preserve that joy in their hearts, right? Don't do as I just did and be like, oh yeah, I just quit because I was sick of it, right? That's not, like, always take care in your reactions. And this is not to lie or to withhold information or to misdirect people in any way, but it's to really be cognizant about how people feel and where they get their sense of self-worth and self-creation from. How do you really build that up? How do you really support other people through what they're going through and really view things from their lens? The more you're able to do that, the more you are able to balance those scales of Libra. And that's important. And so when we talk about scales and measurements and weights, another important reason why scales balance is that the weights are honest. And if you go back through the Bible and ancient sources, there's always talk about having honest weights, honest measures. And it's really important that you give people what they're expecting. And how do you do that? How do you be as honest as possible, right? There's always going to be misunderstandings. There's always going to be, you did your best and somebody else wasn't happy about it. You were really clear about, like, this is what it is, this is what you're getting, here's the situation. Some challenges are just definitely unavoidable. I grew up in Connecticut, and if you listen to Earl Nightingale, he eventually talks about Stu Leonard. And Stu Leonard had this big sign up on the wall, and it was still there when I was a kid, and they have multiple stores now, and it's still there in all the stores. Now, rule number 1, customer is always right. Rule number 2, if the customer is wrong, see rule number 1 again. And because you always want to make the customer as right as possible, because it's important, because it's your integrity, because that is how more people are going to do business with you. And in love, more people are going to want to hang out with you, which is going to give you more opportunity to connect with people. And that's also really important. And the more people you connect with and the more people that have a good experience with you, the more opportunity you have for love, connection, business, growth, contribution, all these, like, very significance, like all your human needs are fulfilled through other people. Treat other people as fairly as possible. And so there's two different modes of fairness in the major arcana of the tarot. And so the major arcana are the trumps, and of the 78 card deck, which was later reduced to the 52 card deck that we know of, so which was basically just the numbers and the face cards. And so the trumps are like the Joker. So the Joker would be the Fool. When we move forward, there is Justice, which is really the Libra card. The Law, Justice, all these modes of fairness, right? So, and they say justice is blind, right? So you have the covering, the face covering on Justice, and she's holding the scales up in the air, and she rules without regard to who you are and what you are. And from this standpoint, we try to interact with people in the form of justice as much as possible. But then there is also judgment. And so in judgment, we see the angel Uriel blowing the horn. There's different names. The horn blowing angel is usually associated with a angel in Islam. It starts with an I. But Uriel and this other angel is essentially the same entity, same idea, same concept. This blowing of the horn clears everything out. Like it brings on Armageddon in a lot of traditions. And it starts the battle. And that's when you take off the blindfold and then you make decisions, and God picks the winners and the losers, like who goes to heaven, who goes to hell. And so Libra has this sense of this possibility of judgment, of the soul eater coming up and eating your heart off the scales that it didn't balance. There's a finality to Libra. Lucifer going to battle, the Aphrodite, a lot of battle senses, very not like Mars, not like we are just fighting for the sake of fighting, or fighting to win, or fighting for any purpose than like final victory, right? It's just when the horns blow for Armageddon or the final battle, or this judgment, the horns are releasing our aura, our essence, and really entering into this power struggle, which is no longer a struggle. It's kind of like already accepted victory, right? It's thinking from the end, right? So the battle happens. The battle is over as soon as it begins, because we already know the outcome. We've already gone through the process. We know what has happened. And as we really think of this process of growing and being fair to people and helping others, when we get enough power, we have this sweeping ability to really dominate. And that's why it's also important to remember justice, remember to treat others well, remember when we were struggling and we needed mercy as well. Marcus Aurelius talks about this a lot in the meditations, where is he being good to people and helping them as much as possible, right? Because he's all powerful and can basically destroy anyone that he comes in contact with, because he would be like, oh, I don't like this person, and she's got people to take care of them. You're a god emperor, basically. Everyone does what you say. How do you justify yourself? But at the same time, Marcus Aurelius died because of the Antonine Plague, right? He was the most powerful person in the world, and he ended up helpless against a tiny virus. It's important that it balances, and that's why the scales are so powerful. It's typically considered the only inanimate constellation in the zodiac. Yes, it's love. Yes, it's connection. Yes, it's legal ease. Yes, it's all these caring entities. But at the end of the day, it's heartless. It doesn't care what the outcome is. It's just looking for the best outcome. It's a cardinal sign, so it's the start of fall in the northern hemisphere. And that cardinality means that, like, it's neither fixed nor mutable, right? So it pivots. The scale is fixed, but it has some play either way, go up or down. Think of late September, where the leaves are just at their peak and everything is absolutely gorgeous, and you have all the celebrations, all the harvest. Everything you've worked throughout the year has finally come to harvest. The harvest is being finished. Everything is, we're not quite in Scorpio, where we're locking down for the winter, and we're creating an essence that is just completely fair. You get the output of what you did this year. Libra is just 100% fairness, right? If you did the crime, you go to jail. If you didn't do the crime, you don't go to jail. Marriage, like, did you find the right person? Did you control your emotions through the courtship process? Were you fair to your spouse, right? Are you honest? Are you loyal? If you were those things and someone else wasn't those things for you, there will be something to replace it. Like, think of Job. The story of Job. Guy is loyal to God, and God's kind of hanging out, having a beer, and the often referred to as the devil or Satan, generally just like the accuser, the advocate, and says, "Hey God, I see your guy Job. He's kind of cool, but he's kind of cool because you gave him all this stuff, and everything looks good." And God's like, "That's cool. No. Job likes me because, I'm a cool God, and, he just happens to have all this stuff." The demon is like, "Oh, let's take this away." So, you take his sheep away, his house away, his family away. It actually kills his entire family. It's pretty freaking savage. Job's like, "Oh, I'm praying to God. I'm in a sackcloth." Demon's like, "I can get this guy." Boils break out all over Job, and he's just and finally he's just like, "Done! I'm done!" God shows up and says, "Hey, you don't understand why I do these things, and you're just putty in my hand, and yada, 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 yada." But after all that, God replaces twofold everything that Job had. He gets he gets hotter wives, better kids, more sheep. It's kind of like a better life situation overall. It's kind of awful to say you get a better family, but that's an old story. Everything gets returned to him, and that is the nature of Libra. If you're doing good and unfairness happens to you, if you survive it, if you're if you keep your heart balanced through the process, you will come out better on the other side. or you'll die, details. And a lot of it is inner growth, right? We become such better people when we go through hardship. If we are as good as possible, we're just going to come out better.